It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is running at 617-297-8388. Again, that is 617-297-8388. It appears on the screen here in the studio in real time, and we try to incorporate it into the conversation, make it easy for you. And today is back at HQ flying the board. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation, broadcasting from the Cameo studios today. Don't forget, the station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, which is a fantastic feature. It means you can take us anywhere at any time. I also stream the show on our social media platforms. The radio station has a Facebook page. Do me a favor, head over there, give us a like and a follow button. And we have a YouTube page that goes with the station, of course. But I also stream on my social media platforms, which you can follow at Joe Mangi Show, Mangi, X, Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile. And we are streaming to Rumble. Yes, there's a Joe Mangiacotti Show channel on Rumble. So check that out. It's loaded up to Twitch TV, a great new streaming channel. We're continually adding program there, and good new, really like interesting new programs are coming, working with some Boston area colleges for some historical type programming. So we're really looking forward to that. Back in the studio, I had a really nice time. I want to thank Hunter and the entire gang and the docents and everybody over there at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson. The actual entrance is on Main Street in Hudson, but you go about a half a mile down the driveway, and then these buildings and tanks and aircraft just come up out of the ground, and had a really nice time there. They were fantastic to WCRN yesterday. Was able to spend some time in the hangar and see some incredible aircraft, and most of the aircraft there are, in fact, airworthy. But it's certainly worth taking the family or the spouse or the boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, and checking it out, the equipment that they have at the American Heritage Museum. A lot of foreign tanks and equipment. So it's not just the American stuff. If you go to the Iraqi war, they have the Iraqi tanks there. And they have Arabic on it and so forth. They have the only known Scud missile on display. Obviously, it's not operational. I was pretty excited because I was broadcasting under the nose of an F-105 Tomahawk, which flew there actually, or can fly if you put it back on. But it was operational when it was sent to the museum. What a great day! What a great experience! I can't recommend going there anymore. It's a really good time. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Don't forget, we're streaming. If you want to watch and listen, you can do that. The show's always turned into a podcast and then loaded up, so you can subscribe to that like you do at Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Play. You know the drill. Wherever you get your podcast, you can do that. A lot to talk about. Trump has had like a 48-hour span. A lot of successes, a lot of stuff happened in a couple of days that, if you look at each one, they're pretty massive things, achievements, or policy changes, or policies instituted that help reshape the status quo. And he did like 7 things in a couple of days. And I know the critics, and they hate everything he does, and they don't want to admit anything that is pretty good or works out. We talked about here on the show, because the tariffs, everybody's so upset about the tariffs. Interesting. I was scrolling, I don't know if it was last night or night before. And usually when I come across that Charlie Kirk. Yeah, Charlie Kirk. Yeah. Outkick or something. Anyway, he's the one that goes to the colleges, universities and stuff. And he's very good. He's a great debater. He really is articulate in his points and so forth. But there was one where one of the professors at the school he was at comes up to really get on Charlie Kirk, that's it. Charlie Kirk about tariffs. And this was 80 days into Trump's, the video is from 80 days into Trump's for a second term here. And of course, what the guy was saying didn't age very well, right? Because this 90-day pause that he's put on with China is a 3-month window to really hash it out. And I think I said something to this a couple of weeks ago when all these tariffs are coming in. Don't get hooked up in these. They're not going to be here forever. They are a means to an end here. Think about who you're dealing with. Think about who you're watching. Think about how he does things. The end goal, or I think the whole thing, was always to get China to the table. Everything else, yes, he wanted renegotiations and everything. But that's the main goal, was to get China on the hot seat. And that's because China cannot afford to lose the American purchase pool. We have what do we have? A little over 4% of the world's population, and we're about 60% of the consumer for the globe. So China absolutely needs America. Otherwise, their economy will fail. It is teetering right now. And just in the small window of tariffs and so forth, some factories have shut down. They have problems. So this 90 days is so important. If Trump pulls this off, it should secure the midterms, in my opinion. Inflation has dropped. We're going to go, gas is down, oil is down, inflation has come down and stabilized. The stock market has regained any losses. It's doing fantastic. And like always, I hope that you listen to me and a lot of other people during, the dip in the market. Stay calm, relax. Matter of fact, pull some mattress out of pull some cash out of the mattress and maybe buy into the market. Certainly don't sell because you're back up and you've had gains. I look at the stock market and the small percentage of people who control all of that money versus the 80+% of people who aren't in the market. And they're like a gambler, right? Who is only betting $1,000 a hand and they lose the hand. They don't think that I only lost $1,000. When they win and they only betted, say, $1,000 on the hand, they look at it and they say, I lost so much more money if I had bet $5,000 on that hand. There's only so much time that the money managers are going to put up with not being in the market where there's way too much money to be made. So I want to talk a little bit about the visits. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump, now in his second term, the 47th president, as well as the 45th. This is the first term to the Gulf region since he started his second term. He began in Saudi Arabia, and he was welcomed. And I was looking at the video of Biden's, you remember the fist pump, and how they welcomed President Trump. And I think that it was a great ceremony. And I think there was a lot of cultural symbolism there. And it was underscoring both the leadership on the world stage and Saudi Arabia's evolving identity. Now, I've made reference to the, doomsday pact from 73, Nixon sending the envoy over, the petroleum dollar, the deal. There's been a very long relationship. And Saudi Arabia, particularly, the royal Saudi family, is very interested in it because the deal going all the way back to 73 was we wouldn't coup him and put somebody else in there we wanted. We would keep the Saudi family in control. They don't really have other claim than it's kind of a self-proclaimed thing that we back up on the condition of what Trump just reinforced. Because as he did this economic deal, Pete Hegseth was doing the military deal, that all oil is traded in American dollar, the reserve currency, the petroleum dollar, if you will. And you get to buy all the American military equipment and tech that you want, and you keep investing. And now, what is it? It was $600 billion, and in Trump fashion, let's make that a trillion. So Saudi Arabia will continue to invest money into the United States, will continue to trade oil in only American dollars, the petrodollar. We will do our part in keeping them in power and not putting our own puppet in there. That was the deal made in 73, and that's what was basically reiterated. Now, it was interesting. There's a lot of comments and talk, people, about the purple carpet that they rolled up on the stairway coming down from Air Force One, the purple carpet all the way through. Well, the red carpet is what we normally think of. And it historically symbolized royalty power, celebrity status, right? Hollywood elites, the red carpet at any of these award shows and so forth. And it goes back quite a way. The first reference that historians can really find about red carpet would have been back in 458 BC in ancient Greece, when a wife provided a path of red for her soldier husband returning from Troy. But in modern times, it has become synonymous with, of course, Hollywood and VIP and visits. But Saudi Arabia officially shifted to the lavender purple carpets back in 2021 as a symbol of their national identity and renewal. So it was a pretty big symbol of respect for him. And all along, they kept this up. Right? We had the motorcade escorted by white Arabian horses, and F-15 fighter jets accompanied Air Force One in. That was probably interesting crosstalk. And then the camels they also had. We can talk a little bit more about this on the other side of the break, as well as many other subjects here. And of course, you can put your 2 cents in or bring up a subject at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. We're going to have to take our first break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. We will do that. We'll come back on the other side. So we'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Go on, go on! Oh, that's unbelievable!
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 495. The course came through the winter grade, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
Every person is entitled to 30 fundamental human rights, and you only need to do one thing to enjoy all of them. Know them. Get your free human rights booklet today. Go to humanrights.com.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment on the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Don't forget the text line is up and running here in the studio. So if you text 617-297-8388, it appears on the screen in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. Again, that is 617-297-8388 to text 617. Responding to an inquiry about the American Heritage Museum Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I think it was around $20 for admission for adults. So you can go to their website, guys, and check that out. But I think it's well worth the trip, even if you got to travel. And whether or not, by the way, in part of the thing, Hunter took me into some areas that weren't open yesterday. The Collins, private garage near their home with their car collection with Packards and Stanley steamers, and even a 27, a Springfield Rolls Royce. And it's called the Springfield Rolls Royce because in the 20s, Rolls Royce had a factory in Springfield, Massachusetts, and they were making Rollses here in Massachusetts in the 20s. And that's when, Ford came out with the Lincoln Touring sedan because Rolls Royce was flooding the American market in the 20s before the Depression, obviously. And they wanted to compete with it. So they had it out. I had the real privilege of owning a 25 touring sedan, Lincoln Touring sedan for a while, several years ago. Powder blue. It was a beautiful vehicle. And the cars that were in the private collection they're just unbelievable. And they had some Formula One. Michael Andretti's car was there. It's just a well worth a trip, guys. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Reminding you, we are streaming, so you can go to Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Twitch profile. You know the drill. So this trip to Saudi Arabia and off to Qatar and so forth, he landed at the airport in Ryder, the lavender, not the red ceremonial carpet. Prince Mohammed bin Salman personally welcomed with a handshake, not a fist pump. The motorcade escorted. It was really quite. If you haven't done, go online, look at that with the white Arabian horses. And I was saying right before the break, it must have been an interesting conversation for our Air Force and Air Force One to accept a foreign nation's escort of fighter jets, F-15s, to accompany. I'm sure they had to be not loaded. They must have been emptied of armament, I would think. But anyway, it approached the kingdom. Full honor guard in place, right? Both U.S. national anthem, Saudi national anthem was played. And one of the ballsiest moves, I think, was when Trump comes out for the economic forum part of it, and he plays Lee Greenwood's there, God Bless America. Or, I'm not sure if that's the actual title. The one he always plays at his rallies. Played the entire song, and all the Saudis stayed standing and showed respect during the whole thing. So that was pretty interesting. They did a formal coffee ceremony, which is kind of a big thing there at the Royal Court, and then the Saudi U.S. Investment Forum. And that was good talk. I mean, he really solidified this. And this is all just part of the first Gulf trip that he's doing here. So what's your take on that? 508-871-7000. Was it actually something that is going to solidify the Middle East in the sense that he made reference to the Abraham's Accord? He wants to see that happen. And he's going to do again, my thought here, he's going to do again what he did in his first term, and that was to isolate Iran to the point that there were deals being struck all around him. Now, in Trump's speech to the forum, he talked about it, how powerful our military is, how destructive it is, how beautifully big it is, and all of that. But saying at the same time it was a big waste of money because he hopes you never, ever have to use it. But of course, you have to have it. Peace through strength. But Trump is always more interested and bringing nations together economically, including the little midget from North Korea. When he walked across, right, the border zone, asked to step, may enter your country, and he stepped over that little step and shook Kim Jong-un's hand, he was there to tell him what a beautiful country they could have if they just developed all that beachfront. So he sees the answer through all boats rising. Economic prosperity for everybody is what he's looking at, how he wants to achieve this, while carrying a big stick, as they say. And now we see inflation at its lowest level in 4 years? The smallest 12-month increase since February of 21. So this is CPI data is suggesting that inflation is stabilizing, and all in connection with the Trump's tariffs. Now, this data arrives really among the warnings here that Trump's reciprocal tariffs would lead to inflation surges, warning that so far they have not materialized, but they've got to go, right? They've got to go against anything, attack anything. I mean, we're a little over the first 100 days, and things are looking pretty good. I don't think there's any economist worth their salt saying that recession or depression or anything is on the way. So the monthly CPI rises, annual inflation rate 2.3. We were at like 9.1 at the high during the Biden administration. And core inflation is at 2.8 for the year. Food prices for April, they're down 0.1%, but they're still up annually, coming off those 4 years. And the energy index, right? Down 3.7% annually. Gas prices down 11.8%. Economy is healthier than it was a year ago, healthier than it was 4 months ago. Things are looking good there. Now, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Let me jump to the phones. Tyler has been waiting patiently. Hey, Tyler, what say you?
I say this is indicative. This is the MO. We have, just for a quick summary of facts, this is your PRN, today, and President Mangiacotti deliver the story behind the story. So, for example, the idiot that went to El Salvador that they're trying to bring back, the police pulled him over. He had 8 illegals in a compact car. He was smuggling. This lady in Worcester that the Shia Torah counselor is poking and pounding on the police and the FBI putting their hands on him, which is considered assault. She's mad they're arresting a lady who beat up a pregnant woman with a phone cord and a charger. But the little Petunia 15-year-old was kicking the ice mobile. But that's okay. You got to protect them. And of course, the $3 to $5 billion. I reported on this a while ago. Chloe said $5 billion for new Air Force One. Trump said no.
Hey, Tyler, just a quick question. Do you happen to be on a speakerphone just because it's a little awkward and hard to hear? Are you on a speakerphone or are you actually on the handset?
No, I'm on the handset. The devil's always mental as usual. Everybody knows that. So, Joe, the president negotiated $5 billion for new Air Force One down to $3.5. Now the Saudi has a 7-year-old plane that they're not using, which would save us a fortune. So the idiots want to make him look bad for telling the truth, saving us some money, and they want us to get angry that they're arresting a trafficker of illegals and a woman who assaulted a pregnant woman. Like I said, cats and dogs and chaos. But you and I and Ted, most people see through this and have clarity of thought. And it's very clear what's going on. They're irrational, they're impulsive, they kind of don't make sense. And Trump's guiding us out of the darkness into light. And Joe, in fairness to the drop in prices and inflation, it was an all-time elevated high to create anxiety, create anger, to create an election motivating force to get Biden over, which backfired. We're coming down to normal prices where we should be. Wouldn't you agree with that? It was at an all-time high on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tyler, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Look, Trump has to create deflation, right, to get prices back to where they were. I think right now, most of us are pretty relieved if inflation stabilizes. In his first term, we were at what, 1.4%, which is a healthy inflation. You can't have zero inflation, guys. It's not good for the economy. A very small inflation that keeps up with wages. And then the Trump first term, we had that, right? Because we had wages going up, inflation was small. The real income was actually 4.55% and people felt that. People felt that because it was there, right? We had the Trump surrogates out there telling us for those 4 years, A, inflation was transitory, B, right, that it wasn't there. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not there. You don't feel it, but people felt it. And even though wages did rise during Biden's administration, inflation exceeded the real wage or the wage increase. Therefore, the real wages was actually decreasing. People felt that too. So we're getting back to some normalcy. And even though everything has been reset, if you will, right? Eggs are down. And that's the other thing, by the way, right? The left is coming out literally 48 hours after the man was sworn in saying egg prices are still high. It's just, you lose all kinds of, you just lose credibility and all. You make a joke out of yourself when you do something and you say that stuff. It's just so weird and unrealistic. You only embarrass yourself with this. And of course, what popped in my head right now, and I guess we'll talk about it, is this David Hogg and his situation. But there's more things that I do want to touch on. By the way, if you didn't see this, because we've got certain Democrats and people on the left, right, whether it's Trump derangement syndrome or they just don't understand the world around them outside of their bubble, right? We've got the mayor who got arrested down in Newark as they broke in and raided the ICE facility. You have the situation Tyler just made reference to. I talked about the other day, I think on Monday's show, maybe, I don't know what show it was. City councilor, banging on a vehicle, and they're trying to, and Ken called in with he had more details, and thank you for that, Ken. Gave us the breakdown of that they were trying to locate this woman. They were there for about an hour. That gave them time to actually call people in, and about 25, but they're interfering. And the Worcester Police Association and the regular rank and file in Worcester, they think
forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Highs again in the 70s, inland 60s at the coastline. Although most of us stay dry, an isolated shower could pop up this afternoon. Your better chance for rain is going to happen tonight with some hit or miss showers and thunderstorms that continue into Thursday morning. Most of Thursday will be dry, but a pop-up isn't out of the question in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Divorce and remarriage. It's a controversial subject clearly addressed in the Bible. Each weekend, Pastor Ray McMahon shares the truth of God's Word on the unbreakable covenant of marriage during the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast. Don't miss this opportunity to learn God's instructions by listening to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast each weekend on this station.
Tune in every Sunday at noon.
If you missed the Howie Carr Show here on WCRN, you missed this.
I don't think that the Boston Police Department should be going after bank robbers because it affects the police department's ability to interact well with the bank robbing community. These people are out of their minds.
Howie Carr, weekday afternoons 3 till 7 on New England's News and Talk Radio, 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. My apologies, guys. I took my eye off the clock there, and so I ran into the break. Try not to happen. That's one of the no-nos in radio. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And hey, don't forget, the text line is up and running, 617-297-8388. Finish what my thought was going into the break. So you've got this craziness going on with, again, we have judges and we have elected officials that somehow think that they're exempt. We're back to that, the protester. And I used the point of the Coachella Road on the tribal ground, where these people just, because they're so convinced in their head that they're right and they do not want to debate it or have a discussion about it, right? You should not be allowed to say anything contradicting their feelings or their purpose. And therefore, that gives them some kind of license to break the law. So a peaceful protest isn't a peaceful protest when you lay hands on somebody, where you illegally enter an area or you bust through a gate. It's so, well, interesting, let's say that. But for those of you who may have missed it, that Milwaukee judge, the one that was accused of helping the immigrant evade ICE in her courtroom, Judge Hannah Dugan, well, she's been indicted by a federal grand jury for the charges for obstructing federal agents and helping illegal immigrant avoid arrest in her own courtroom. Now, the illegal at center of this, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, and he has a history of deportation in re-entering the country illegally. He has multiple battery charges he's facing for beating on two people. So she's been charged with felony obstruction of a federal agency. Good. A misdemeanor for concealing a person to avoid arrest. Good, because that's what she did. And according to federal agents, Judge Dugan shielded Ruiz by dismissing ICE agents from her courtroom area and then escorting the defendant through a private jury room exit, allowing him to avoid ICE agents who were stationed in the public area. Now, this guy Ruiz was wanted by ICE, FBI, CBP, and DEA. So we're not talking about the local beat cop after them here. We're talking about being deported and re-entering the country illegally. And the story on this is there were uniformed ICE agents in the courthouse. And one of the clerks or whatever saw these uniformed agents and scurried off to Judge Dugan and told her that they're in the building. Now, they had already checked in with the Chief Justice. They followed the procedure by the book, and they were there to take him into custody when he was done with the court proceedings. That's when she lost it, gone, chewed them out, kicked them out of the building. But what they didn't know, the little tattletale woman and the judge didn't know, is that there were plainclothes ICE agents also. So they watched them get chewed out, watched them kicked out of the building by Dugan, and of course they stayed there. And they were able to witness her actions. So when this goes to trial or gets in front of a judge on this, you have ICE agents, sworn officers who witnessed her actions and witnessed her giving the order and escorting this POS out the back door. So Judge Hannah Dugan, sitting Milwaukee County judge, she claims innocence. Of course you do. And Ruiz, previously deported illegal immigrant accused of violent battery, now at the center of this case, and the ICE and federal agencies attempted lawful arrests, but were blocked. And so the U.S. justice system is facing scrutiny over whether judges can act above the law. What say you? I say no, especially since the left just put us through years of reminding us that no one is above the law as they were trying to prosecute and then, one argue, persecute Donald Trump. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. That's 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Ken, waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Good afternoon, Joe. I'm thinking that justice will result in Judge Dugan never in a black robe again.
Unless she's playing dress up at home. I agree.
Yeah,
It should be that way. And there should have been more consequences for our Massachusetts judge. Remember Shelley Jones?
Shelley Joseph is the name.
Shelley Joseph.
Yeah.
She was actually on her way to jail, and the Biden administration intervened.
Yeah, from what I understand, though, her case wasn't as cut and dry as this one. So she was sort of covertly allowing an illegal out of the courtroom where...
Well, I understood, Ken, she kind of handed it off to the bailiff, right? And she told the bailiff, you take care of this and get him out of here. And the bailiff did the actual escorting, opening secure doors and all that under Shelley Joseph's direction.
But Judge Dugan literally was shouting at people.
Yep.
This wasn't anything sly. This wasn't covert. This was overt action, which is going to make it really hard for her to slip under the justice system that hopefully will get things done.
So, Ken, why do you think a podunk mayor in New Jersey, a sitting judge in Milwaukee, a city council in Worcester, we can go through the list of people, think that they have a different set of rules, that they don't have to follow the law that they expect everyone else to? Is it arrogance, lack of consequences before, or just simply lack of understanding that they're idiots in this case? Why do they think that they're feeling they can do this?
Oh, there's no lack of understanding at all. This is the cause of the future, Joe. Come on now. They're warriors in the war.
Warriors in the war. Yeah. They do think. They actually think they're at war with Trump and Trump supporters.
Well, yes, but it's much bigger than that. I mean, it's coming to a head quickly because Trump is standing firm, and that's really blowing up their vision of the future. That's what's making them act the way they are. They had a vision that's far different than the way it's playing out, and they have explosions in their brain, and they're not able to think straight anymore.
Explosions in the brain. Look, I think Trump derangement, TDS, is actually a real thing. I know we like to joke about it years ago when we first started hearing that term come around, but it's actually now being recognized by the psychological community that this is something, because all the reason goes out, right? You cannot have a debate with somebody. And again, we go back to if they continue to label him Hitler or killing democracy, then eventually, if you start to believe that, isn't it justified, right? Anything's justified to stop the next Hitler. I think what they've done is they have lessened the monster that was Hitler by doing that. He's in a class all by himself in this mass genocide of millions and millions of people. It's ridiculous to do that. But I think it's also lost its meaning, right? Because all of the other house of cards have fallen apart when we're seeing just how well and how often they lie to us. And now the latest one, of course, Ken, right, is all the books. I was going to talk about Jake Tapper in this ridiculous book that he's putting out that now he's pretending. Remember the interview he had with Laura Trump and berated her? And you're not qualified to make any kind of assessment? Well, quite frankly, all of us are totally qualified to make any assessment that we feel we witness with our own eyes and ears. But now all the books are coming out, right? Really, just how bad it really was. But weren't we talking about that for 4 years on this station and other stations?
Yeah, then we're getting new news about wheelchair auto pen bike.
Yeah.
That's a kicker, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, but they weren't going to tell us until after the election.
No, that was the discussion, right? We got to keep him out of the wheelchair till we get him back in. Then we can put him in a wheelchair and hide him away. And then what were they going to do? Oh, just like FDR, right?
No. This is just like Woodrow Wilson and what Ethel did.
Yeah, we've got that, and people also had a problem with Nancy Reagan. I don't think Nancy Reagan was doing as much as they accused her of. But she was protecting her husband.
That story straight.
Say again?
Here's fact, folks. When was Ronald Reagan diagnosed?
Oh, after he left office.
4 years after
Yeah.
he left. Which isn't to say that he wasn't as sharp in year 8 of his presidency as he was in year 1. But listen to his parting speech and tell me he wasn't 100 times with it compared to Biden.
Yeah.
That was a spectacular
I agree.
that finished off his presidency.
Hey,
And
Ken, did you see the movie Reagan?
I don't think I have, no.
All right. It's worth it was good.
Famous actor.
Say again?
Just a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, I don't know, a year ago maybe? Because that's one of the I actually went to the theater and saw that in a movie theater, which I hadn't done for probably like 15 years. But I didn't want to. I usually don't care because within a relatively short time these days, it's on some kind of streaming service or you can rent it. But I went to the theater to see it when it came out because Reagan was the first president I got to vote for, and I kind of came into the business world during the Reagan term. So I have a special place in my heart for Ronald Reagan and that administration. But it was pretty good. A pretty good movie. And of course they dressed that, on the ranch and stuff post presidency. And they told the story of Reagan through the eyes of a retired KGB agent whose mission it was to study Reagan for the state. So it's a good movie if you haven't seen it, folks. We're coming against the clock. Final thought, Ken, or point?
Oh, we need to talk about Chucky Schumer and the hold that he's put on DOJ nominees. Warfare.
Yeah. Interesting. And remember, this is the guy that stood in front or on the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened them, right? So this is a big thing. Ken, thanks for the call. Always appreciate it. But we're running against the clock for the third and final break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you that the station does stream like other, thousands of other stations 24/7 on the TuneIn app, which means you can take us anywhere and you can tell Alexa to play WCRN and she'll do it with no questions asked. I'm streaming on my social media, folks. So feel free to hop on with the other streamers. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
No one cares more about quality and keeping customers happy than Good as Gold coffee service. For over 45 years, Good as Gold has been privileged to be the preferred coffee supplier of some of the area's finest businesses. Isn't it time for you to make Good as Gold your coffee service? Whether you enjoy freshly roasted coffee beans, pre-measured packs, or single cup solutions, Good as Gold coffee has the perfect solution for every size business. Call Good as Gold Coffee today at 1-800-322-0439. goodasgold.com.
Are you ready for a change? Do you need a job that works around your schedule? How about driving your own kids to school and getting paid for it? AA Transportation is offering paid CDL training with regular permit classes that get you on the road. They have immediate openings for school bus and van drivers, as well as monitors across several districts. All you need is a good driving record with at least 5 years experience, a clean quarry, the ability to pass a pre-employment drug screening and DOT physical. If you already have a school bus or 7D certificate, join us now and earn up to $30 an hour with guaranteed minimum hours, health and dental benefits, plus a 401k. And for those experienced coach bus drivers out there, we have a position for you too. This is perfect for parents, retirees, or anyone who enjoys being behind the wheel. Call Lori at 774-361-5042. That's 774-361-5042. Start your journey with AA Transportation.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, you can join the conversation for the remainder of this hour at 508-871-7000 or text us at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Final thought to finish up this judge in Milwaukee, Dugan. Look, A.G. Pam Bondi, her quote here is, "You cannot obstruct a criminal case," and really shame on her. It was a domestic violence case, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime, unquote there. And that's this consistency in this, is that the people who these activists on the left, including elected officials and judges, obviously, they're going to bat for some of the worst people in society, and mistakenly thinking that non-citizens illegally in the country have the same rights as citizens do. And the truth of it is they actually don't. It's a different degree, and due process doesn't mean everybody gets a full-blown trial. And now the court just backed up the fact that, and I forget the judge that did it in the district, but the ruling was the Trump administration can in fact use the 1798 Criminal Aliens Act because it's a actual law. It's a tool that they have, and of course they can use it. And that it's in her 47-page decision, she said these are absolutely within the scope of the power of the Secretary of State and the presidency. And it's not the judges aren't there. They can't come in and change it, that they're there for a reason. Those are tools that can be used. And that's not the role of the judge. And that comes back to the Chief Justice needs to get his house in order, because as the confidence and respect for the judicial system continues to erode because of these blatant activist judges and just decisions that defy all common sense and legal precedents, they're becoming grouped in with the media, and the mainstream media, I should say, and Congress. And that's going to result in the other branches of government, specifically Congress, having to do something to get their house in order. So, Chief Justice Roberts, you need to act. You can't sit on the fence on this one. And Kristi Noem, in regards to this Dugan situation, she said, hey, nobody can facilitate breaking the law. Even judges must be held accountable. No kidding. So let's be clear on this one. No one, not even a judge, has the right to help someone break the law, especially when somebody already deported and they're facing new charges of violence, bad charges. This isn't about politics. It's about the rule of law. If a judge starts picking and choosing which laws they enforce, we don't have justice. We do have chaos. And we see that theme, right, all the time here, that certain members of Congress, and you have mayors and governors even, this is the whole sanctuary city issue, that they self-declare themselves sanctuary cities. There is no mechanism for that. You're not allowed to opt out of certain laws. That's not how it works, folks. So a couple more things. We made reference to this, to Jake Tapper. This guy, talk about no self-awareness, no credibility, has become a caricature of himself because he's rewriting history on Biden's mental health decline in his new book. The Original Sin, I think it's called. And it's all about claims about, President Biden's cognitive decline and the efforts by his staff to cover it up. He went against Laura Trump in that pretty infamous interview with her now. But the backlash isn't just about the book's content. It's about Tapper's role, like many other in the media. And that's why, have you noticed the new phrase in the last, say, 24 hours? You know how all of a sudden, once a Democrat user site, it kind of spreads right through. They all get whatever. They get the email, the text. I don't know how they do this, but we're looking forward. Schumer got asked about something, right? I'm just moving forward. This is what the media and people like Jake Tapper want to do. Don't hold me accountable. I'll just move forward. This is the new way to handle this. And here's the thing. Whether you're Jake Tapper or any of these other talking heads or publishers and reporters in the media, it's a simple choice. Either you saw what the rest of us saw long before it was officially acknowledged in the June debate, and you chose to ignore it and not pick at that scab and to help with the White House's lying and cover-up. Knowingly you did that, or you didn't, and then that speaks to your ability as a reporter. And if you didn't see what everyone else was seeing, and if you didn't ask the questions you should have asked, then you really have no right holding the job you have or being able to call yourself a journalist. So it's one or the other. And 873 text Original Sin. Pretty unoriginal title, stolen from NX. All right. But look, Jake Tapper's a joke on this, folks. You can't have it both ways. This is a money grab on his part. That's the bottom line. The book claims that Biden allegedly did not recognize George Clooney. And of course, that's the big sin, right? You can let everybody, run the country in your stead and use the robo pen signing, and you don't know what is actually going on. That's all acceptable. We'll deal with that. But you don't recognize a Hollywood elite. Well, that's just enough. That's too much. So his aides, according to all these books coming out now, they were so concerned about his health, as Ken brought up, they talked about a wheelchair during a potential second term. So critics accused Tapper, minimizing Biden's cognitive issues while he was in office and even attacking the others like Lara Trump and calling those conspiracy theories, right? Remember that they're all conspiracy. And what about the deep fakes? If Newsmax or Fox or anybody showed video, not altered, literally video. Sometimes it was even a live feed. Just showed him walking off into the rainforest or not knowing which way to get off the stage, shaking hands with people that aren't there. All of the things, falling at the Air Force Academy graduation, just flopping over on all the things we saw. Binder came out. They all came out and said they were deep fakes. Very Orwellian, folks. Extremely Orwellian. Unbelievable stuff. So the credibility or credibility crisis for legacy media, it's there. Tapper's book may fuel growing distrust in mainstream outlets, and they're already under fire for this biased coverage and selective reporting. But there has to be, and we have to have, public accountability, because it does raise broader questions about media complacency in this and covering powerful politicians and managing public perception. So if Tapper knew about Biden's cognitive decline earlier, why didn't he speak up when the American people needed that information? And the response that we get from media is the White House lied, right? They're using the L word now. The White House lied. Here's a little inside information for you. If you're a journalist, they're supposed to lie. We know they lie. You as a journalist assume that everything the White House is telling you under any administration, it's called spin. That is the job of the communications department in an administration, to put the best positive spin on everything. You're supposed to do your job and ask questions. The dreaded follow-up question. Also, another thing I want to, before we get to wrap up today, is this Disney double standard. They're putting this new park in the UAE. And remember, Disney had the whole Florida Don't Say Gay bill and everything. But the irony here is, so they're going and they're building a park in a Muslim nation, new theme park in Abu Dhabi. Its 7th park globally. And this comes after the company's very public clash with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis over the state's parental rights education law. Remember that? And the critics dubbed it, including Disney, Don't Say Gay bill. Whereas, of course, nowhere in the bill was that phrase ever in the bill. It was just saying that kids from the 3rd grade and younger, teachers and staff should not be talking about sex with children. And we're not talking, the bill wasn't saying 15, 16-year-olds. We're talking 3rd grade and under, if you remember that. So Disney Park announcement CEO Bob Iger called the project authentically Disney in distinctly Emirates, praising AUE's appreciation of the arts. Well, LGBTQ laws in the UAE, same-sex relationships are illegal. Penalties for consensual sodomy include minimum 6 months in prison. And it gets worse. And cross-dressing or entering opposite gender spaces can result to a year in prison and a fine. The 2022 movie Lightyear was banned in the UAE over same-sex kiss in it. So in contrast, Disney opposed Florida's HB 1557, which falsely labeled it the Don't Say Gay bill. They donated $5 million to the LGBTQ plus groups. They engaged in legal battles with DeSantis, dissolved Disney's special tax district. So again, their stance changes based on what they want to do to make money. This wraps up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Thank you for stopping by. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Don't forget, the station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app. Joe out, folks.